meditation, and where does that play a role in what we're in the process of self-realization, in the process of enlightenment, if you will? How does it fit? Is it something that's very important? Is it something that's tangential? So when I say silent meditation, what does it bring up for you? Just anybody who wants to say something. TM. Well, that's a good start. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
they basically made a business out of it for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Gary, did you want to say something?
Oh well, I think it's kind of focusing on that voice and realizing that that's that voice, that it's yourself, and to stop. You know, it's like
To stop that
means
voice.
It's like quit the dialogue. You
Right.
know, try to like see beyond that. Like no. You know,
Because the voice is
us, just feeding the. It's like the train keeps going. You know
the
what I mean?
chatter.
You go to sit to be quiet, and it's like the train's still rolling on the tracks, going.
Yeah.
You know, it's just motoring along, and it's like that's where I think the breathing and the quiet time. You know, for me, it's about breathing.
How many people have practiced
slowing it
silent
down.
meditation to some degree, or not necessarily
I mean,
formal?
I think I have.
Yeah.
If I got that far, I think
I would expect most people here have done it, even if it's just even if it's not a formal thing, to just go sit somewhere silently and be thoughtful or something like that. Of course, there is formal silent meditation. TM is probably one of the biggest names in that category. Anybody else? Anybody else want to make some comments about what silent meditation means to you, what your experiences are with it, how you feel about it? Anybody? We don't want to put anybody on the spot, but okay. So tonight we're going to talk about the whole concept of where silent meditation fits in with the Krishna conscious process, which, when I say Krishna conscious, most of you know this, is the real Vedic process. And there's a few places in the Bhagavad Gita where this is actually mentioned. And in fact, some people will find these verses in the Gita and use them to promote silent meditation. Now, I am not familiar with the formal side of what Guru Mahesh Yogi did with TM. I've heard several different things. Some of our devotees actually came from the TM process. But I didn't get the impression that he was real big on quoting scriptures and things like that. I think he the way he presented things was kind of on a more informal level to his disciples. Although I think in the background there was some formal stuff going on. But I don't think he integrated that into his disciples. Basically, at the risk of sounding a little bit callous, I think if you paid your dues, then you got your mantra, and then you were kind of patted on the head and go do your silent meditation. So anyhow, what we're going to do tonight, so let's start with this salutation to Vedavyas by chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay. That's how we honor Vasudeva. Oh, I put this up also before we're done tonight. Remind me to talk about the 4th of July. I'll talk about it a little bit right now so I don't forget. We have a big annual 4th of July parade here in OJAI. Actually, we don't. The city has a big annual 4th of July Independence Day parade. It's one of the few cities in California that still has that traditional 4th of July parade that I know when I was a kid. I grew up on the East Coast. It seemed back then, the economy wasn't so tight, and many people had their own little hometown 4th of July parades. And OJAI somehow or another is well known in Southern California for maintaining that tradition. Hey, Anna. And there's a lot of angst about getting it put on because they collect money and they have fireworks and they have parade and they have pancake breakfast and they do all this stuff. And so a couple of years ago, we were able to make the arrangements with the devotees who, some of you were here last year when we built this new Rath Yatra parade float in the backyard or next to the driveway, next to the garage. And the fellow who does it is a very good friend of mine. And so we're able to bring this parade float up. And at the risk of sounding a little bit proud, we have the best thing in the parade. I mean, I think I can safely say that because people come up to me all year long saying, "Oh, you're the one in the parade. It's really cool." So I really want to encourage everybody here tonight to put it on your calendar to do, hey, Miguel, he's back.
Right.
He's
Hi,
back.
Miguel.
Miguel and Anna are back.
Okay, welcome Margarita and Lori too.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Is this your first time?
No.
I didn't think so. I recognize you, but I think it's your first time. Yeah, okay, great. So we'll get your, well, I think you're already on the email address, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And Lori, if you want to be on it, we'll get your email address, and then you can, of course, if you're hanging around with Francisco, he knows when it's happening too. Anyhow, so the 4th of July parade is a really kind of a big thing for us because it's an opportunity to really, I mean, it gets a lot of people's attention, and we want to do that. We want, and of course, I can't tell you how many people say, oh, I think it's so cool, it's wonderful, we really like what you're doing, but then, you know, it doesn't go a whole lot further than that. So, and it's a big parade, and of course, the way this thing moves, the wheels are about 5.5 feet tall. And the way this thing moves is, you can't see it so much, but there actually is, maybe you can see it right there. There's actually ropes that we pull it with. Now, it doesn't take much to pull this because the wheels are so big, and at least the good first portion of the parade, it's basically downhill. So it's really more of a question of just sort of walking with the rope. At the end, towards Sarasota Park, it requires a little bit. But it's really nice if you can all come out and be part of it. And if you have any friends, even people that may not be so sure about what the Hare Krishna movement is, or just tell them, hey, if they have kids, hey, your kids can be in the parade. Just dress nicely, dress clean, you know, colorful colors and stuff like that. If you bring kids to something like this, they will not forget it. It'll be one of those things that sticks in their head for a long time. Okay, so having given our commercial announcement for that, let us get on with the discussion tonight. And the verse that I picked, I actually picked 2 verses. Oh, it is there. How about that?
Is that from the last 4th of July, Meshwar?
Yeah, I think it was. I think that was. I've got several different versions of it, but I made a new one. I made everything new this year. I was getting tired of the old one. Okay, so this is the first verse that I thought of in terms of the concept of silence, and where does silence fit into the whole Hare Krishna thought stream, or what we teach. But actually, the other verse is more appropriate, but I think they're both appropriate, but this one's only 1 stanza where the other one is 2. So we're going to do this one for the Sanskrit tonight, and then we'll jump over to the other one. Both of them have very short purports. And then later on in the evening, what I'm going to do is I'm going to step through the chart. I hope everybody, if you do look at your emails, you'll see that I sent a chart, which I actually took to our Prabhupada festival last weekend, I think it was. And I kind of printed it out real quickly and put it up just to see what the devotees' comments were. And a lot of people were coming up and saying, hey, where can I get one of those? So it seems to be working. It seems to be doing the job I wanted it to do. Okay, so let's start with this. We're going to go down to the English. Normally in the temple we start with the Sanskrit, but it's appropriate so everybody can see what we're going to say here. So this is what is in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text 15. Let's bring this down a little bit, and you'll see this is under the section called the Divisions of Faith. And in there you will find different things are explained. In fact, many of the elements on the chart, which we talk about all the time, the 3 divisions of the 3 aspects of the absolute, the 3 modes of nature, which I don't have it on here. All right. Anyhow, one of the charts, the 3 modes of nature. A lot of those things came out of this chapter. And in this case, it's talking about speech. So please repeat. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful.
Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful,
Pleasing,
beneficial,
and not agitating to others.
and not agitating to others,
And also in regularly reciting Vedic literature.
and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature.
Okay, keep in mind that this verse is telling us, it doesn't say anything about silent meditation here, right? It's talking about speaking, and speaking out truthfully, pleasing, beneficial. And another thing I'd like to point out to the people who are running around doing silent meditation and thinking that's all they have to do, well, according to the Bhagavad Gita, no. You should also study the Vedic literatures. And in fact, many of the people who are teaching all these different philosophies, I'm not going to mention names, when you push them, you'll find out, or if you research a little bit, you'll find out that they actually are studying the Vedas. They may not be teaching it to their disciples so much, because that might be not so politically correct in a non-religious sort of an environment, or religion, keep it to yourself environment. But they're studying the Vedas. So, and that's where they're getting a lot of their knowledge from. Okay, so let's go try running through this Sanskrit real quick here to give everybody a chance of how it sounds. Let's start with this. This just kind of gives this whole thing some authenticity. One of the things we like to do here is always go back to the Vedas. We don't make things up and we don't interject our own ideas. So, follow me and we'll all have it reading. We'll all be reading it by the time we're done here. So the first word is anudvega karam, not agitating. Vyakyam, words. Satyam, truthful. Priya, dear. Hitam, beneficial. Cha, also. Yat, which. Svatyaya, it's actually svadhyaya. That's a tough one. Of Vedic study. Abhyasanam, practice. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Vakmayam, of the voice. Tapa, austerity. Uchyate, is said to be. Okay, so here, let's see what we got now. Okay, let's try, I'll break it up for you. Anudvega karam vyakyam. I'll break it up even more. Satyam, Priya, Hitam, Chayat, Satyam, Priya, Hitam, Chayat, Svadhyaya, Vyasanam, Kaiva. Remember, take it 2 or 3 letters at a time. They can be a little intimidating. Svadhyaya Vyasanam Kaiva. Okay. Van Mayam Tapa Uchyate. Van Mayam Tapa Uchyate. Van Mayam Tapa Uchyate. Okay, let's try it. Anudvega karam vyakyam. Satyam priyam hitam chayat. Svadhyaya vyasanam kaiva. Vanmayam tapa uchyate. Anudvega karam vyakyam. Satyam priya hitam chayat. Svadhyaya vyasanam kaiva. Vanmayam tapa uchyate. I'll do it once more and then we'll let you guys try it. Anudvega karam vyakyam. Satyam priya hitam chayat. Svadhyaya vyasanam chaiva. Vanmaya tapa uchyate. Okay, who wants to try it? Anybody want to try it?
Anudvega karam vakyam.
Anudvega karam vyakyam.
Satyam priya hitam chayat.
Satyam priya hitam chayat.
Svadhyaya vihasanam kaiva.
Svadhyaya vyasanam kaiva.
Vanmayam tapa uchite.
Vanmayam tapa uchyate. Very good. Very good. Very good. Anybody else want to try it? Okay.
What's the first word? Anudvega?
Anudvega.
Dvega.
Dvega.
It's the third line that gets me. With the yayas and the blah.
Try it. Come on, try it, Jerry.
No way. Try it.
Go for it.
Do it one more time. I want to hear it slow.
The third line?
Yeah.
Okay, just go 2 letters at a time.
Spad.
Spad. Ya, sanam, chaiva.
So it's 3 yas.
Well, there's another one down here.
Svadhyaya, yasanam, Kaya.
Yeah, there you go. It sees
So you gotta blow
chaiva.
through the BH.
Chaiva. Yeah. Well, swadhyaya bhya.
Swadhyaya
Bhya. Swanam.
sanam
Chaiva.
kaiva.
You say it a few times and you get it. That's why we go over it, so you can get a feeling for it. You want to try it now? Try
No,
the
I
whole
like.
thing.
I'm actually my favorite's the last one.
Oh, come on, do the whole thing.
No.
Break it up again, Meshwar. Would you
I
break
like
up
the
the
last
third
one.
line again? Break it up.
Third one?
Do it again.
Okay.
Do it.
Swad. It's swa.
Swad.
Okay, swa. But you got the DH. Swad. Ya.
Excuse me,
Ya.
but you start with what? What is it again?
Swad.
Okay,
Swad.
it's swa. Just forget this part right here for
No.
now. Swa. Okay.
Swad.
But it's got the DH on it, so it's swad.
Swad. Okay.
Swad.
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 Ya.
Yeah.
Think of the Rolling Stones.
Swad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Swadhyaya bhya sanam.
Sanam.
Chaiva.
Swadhyaya.
Bhya
Bhya.
sanam.
Sanam.
Chaiva.
Kaya.
There you go.
Kaya.
All right, I'll give one more chance. Anybody want to try it? No? Okay. Okay, moving forward. Lost a chance.
I thought Gary was gonna do it.
No.
No, you want to do it?
I'll do it.
I just
Good.
I'll do it. If you're
I
not
just
Gary, go
He's
for it.
just
You
making
should
a
do
lot
it.
of
Just
noise
go
over
for it.
there.
Go for it.
Come on, you got to do it now after putting everybody through that.
Anudvega karam vakyam
Anudvega karam yakyam
satyam priya hitaya kayat
satyam priya hitam chayat
swadhyaya varyasanam kava
swadhyaya vyasanam jaiva.
van mayam tapa usate.
Good. Swadvanayam tapa uchinte. That wasn't too bad. Not too bad. Right? Now you want to try it, Robert?
Okay. Anudvega karam vakyam
Anudvega karam yakyam
satyam priya hitam chayat
satyam priya hitam chayat.
swadhyaya vyasanam chaiva
Very good. Swadhyaya vyasanam chaiva
vanmayam tapa uchate.
Ranayam tapa uchite. Very good. Very good. Okay, let's move forward. That's good. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, so back to this. Austerity of speech consists of speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. Okay, so what do we got here? It's a short purport. One should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students. But such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students, if he will agitate their minds. This is penance as far as talking is concerned. Besides that, one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. One should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what he is saying. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. There is a limitless stock of Vedic literature, and one should study this. This is called penance of speech. Okay? Hey, Ed's back. Back from San Luis Obispo. Very good. All right, Haribol. He's here. All right. Well, this is a short purport, but it's a very powerful one. You know, we say one of the first verse, I think it's the first verse in the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami says, one should control the tongue, the belly, and the genitals. So the tongue and the belly are kind of, the tongue and the belly are kind of connected in the sense that the tongue can speak, but the tongue is also driven by the pangs of the belly. And this is really what separates the real yogis from what we refer to as the bogey yogis. Okay? The bogey yogis do not control their senses. They make a big deal out of trying to be spiritual, and they might do all sorts of other things that look spiritual, or somehow we got to believe is spiritual. But the acid test is how well does a person control their senses. So controlling the tongue is not only very important in terms of what we eat, and we do that every time you guys come here. We have a nice dinner at the end of the night. We're eating Krishna Prasadam. It's been nicely prepared. So that's the way you handle the eating side of it. How do you handle the talking side of it is you be careful to, ideally, really only try to talk about Krishna. There's so many things going on right now, especially with the presidential election. You turn on the radio. We were listening a little bit yesterday. I'm just listening carefully to see what's going on. But it's like Rajrani was noticing, God, they're talking about Donald Trump all day long. I mean, it's just like, and they are. And a lot of it's repetitive.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so that kind of stuff is really, it's very temporary. Yeah, maybe it's a big subject today, but in probably within 5 years, 10 years from now, it's just going to be a little blip in history, just like everything that was 20 years ago. Just a little blip in some history book. Really doesn't make any difference. But when we talk about Krishna consciousness, we're actually talking about stuff that's impacting our consciousness. And our consciousness, as I've said many, many times, is really the only thing that we take with us when we leave this particular incarnation and whatever you want to call it, this body, this place, this time. That's the only thing we take. We don't take our toys. We don't take our bank account. We don't take our girlfriend or our boyfriend or our husband or our children or any relatives.
No teddy bears.
No teddy bears, okay? No toys. But we do take our consciousness. So the whole process of the Krishna consciousness movement is to lift our consciousness to the highest possible place. Because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajan tyanti televaram tam tam evaiti kuntaya sarata bhava bhavitaha, that at the end of this life, the last thing that we think of right before we leave this body, that's where we're going to go. So you think about it. I was saying to Brajarani yesterday, I said, you know, however many years we live, let's say we live 50 years, most of us have already done 50 years, maybe we're working on the next half, okay? 70 years, 80 years, maybe some of us will even live 100 years. But when you really think about it, it all gets down to that last moment. Whether you live for 50 years or 100 years. In fact, there's a verse in the second canto that goes, what is the use of living a long, prolonged life? And Prabhupada mentions in the purport to that, like some of these sequoia trees, which I think they live 800 years, maybe even some of them are living 1,000 years. Think about that. They've been around like since, 1,000 years ago. But the Bhagavatam says, so what? They've lived a long life, but what's the level of their consciousness? They're just still a tree. So in that particular place in the Bhagavatam, it says, better to have one moment of consciousness, full consciousness, than live 1,000 years and just be a tree. And so we actually find in the Vedic literatures, there's stories of really great personalities who, from our perspective, they were born in this horrible situation. For example, one we've talked about before is when when Devotee and Vasudeva were giving birth to their children, and Kamsa was terrified that her children were going to be the one that kills him. As soon as he found out it was like her 7th child was going to be the one, or 8th child was going to be the one that comes to kill him. So what he did, just to be sure, is he killed all the children before him. Just killed them. As soon as they were born, immediately, Vasudeva was a very, very honest man. And even though it was a horrible situation, he promised that he would give Kamsa all of his children so he could do whatever he wanted to spare the life of his wife, Devaki. And so Kamsa was a very mean person. He threw him in prison. And then over the next couple of years, she had several children. And as soon as the children were born, he turned them over to Kamsa. And Kamsa immediately killed them. So from our point of view, it's like, oh man, that's horrible. But actually, when you read the full story and you understand those people who were born, think about it, as Krishna's brothers, they didn't live very long. But that's a far out thing. They were born as Krishna's brothers. Turns out that they were actually great sages that committed some offense. And they were cursed to come to the material world, which is, from the spiritual world's point of view, this place is bad news. Who wants to come here?
Bad hotel.
Yeah, it's a bad hotel. Get out as fast as you can. So they were cursed to come to the material world. But the blessing was they didn't stay here very long. Right? Boom, they're here, gone back. Okay, great, that's over with. So it kind of gives you a whole different way of looking at things when you start understanding what's really going on. So anyhow, back to our topic for tonight. This concept of speech is very important because we can use our words. You know, we used to sing that song as a child. What is it? Sticks and stones can break my bones, but names can never hurt me. But actually, if you know anything about therapy, if you know anything about childhood trauma, sometimes words can be extremely damaging. And people, you know, somebody said something to somebody when they're 10 years old, or somebody called them a name, called them stupid or ugly or something like that. I mean, from what I understand, you know, there's so much pressure on the kids today to look the right way and act the right way and bullying and all this stuff. And just a few words can really send somebody off in a bad direction. So that's what this verse is about. Be careful what you say. And ideally, try to say things which are beneficial. Now, there's an interesting point here is that I was talking to somebody recently about this. Speaking beneficially, he says, don't agitate people. But in the process of teaching Krishna consciousness, if you speak truthfully, you will inevitably agitate some people. It's going to happen. In fact, Bhaktisiddhanta makes many strong comments in this regard about how if you're not agitating somebody, you're probably not speaking Krishna consciousness very clearly, or you're making compromises, or you're kind of dancing around the issue. Because that's the nature of the material world.
In that case, though, you could look at it as if they're actually agitating themselves, because if
Yes.
they're not able to receive the truth, then that's because they're not there
That's
yet.
exactly what I was going to
So,
say.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I
sorry.
think we were talking about it the other morning. Maybe that's what I remember. Yeah, so when you're speaking the truth, some people aren't going to want to hear the truth. And instead of accepting it and being noble and taking it on and dealing with it, they'll run out of the room, slam the door, or they'll call you names, or they'll, you know, some people are really vindictive and they'll do all sorts of things. So that's their stuff. That's not our stuff. Our stuff is to try to present Krishna consciousness in a nice, formal way, and present it. And if you speak the truth, some people are ready for it and some people aren't ready for it. And we can see right here, there's only maybe 10 people in this room. Whereas there's many other churches around town where, you know, not to disparage any of the churches, but, you know, they have huge followings. You know, what to speak of other whatever public events that are going on around town. But maybe they're not saying stuff quite as, you know, concrete as what we're trying to say here. Maybe they're not asking people to do things kind of like what we ask people to do here, like eat prasadam. Don't just go stop at McDonald's and just take whatever they give you. You know, try to be conscious of what you're doing, you know, in terms of what you're saying. Okay, so with that being done, let's go here to this one. And we're not going to go through the Sanskrit on this one because you'll see, maybe I'll just read it for you, but this one is a double verse. So I didn't want to go through this, take too much time. This goes, Sama Satra Chamitya Cha Tatamana Pramanayo Sitosna Sukadukeshu Sama Sangha Vivarchita. And then there's another one. Atolya Ninda Sutir Mauni Santushto Yena Kenachit Aniketa Starir Matir Bhakti Man Me Priyo Nara. Okay, so now this one says, we'll jump over that. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equiposed in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always freed from contaminating association, and here's the part we want to pay attention to tonight, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service, such a person is very dear to me. Okay, now this is coming from chapter 12, devotional service. There's a lot of stuff packed in this verse, a whole lot of stuff packed in this verse. And I'm going to read the purport, which is a little longer than the other one, which wasn't that long. And Prabhupada's going to cover most of this stuff, and then we're going to focus on what he's talking about silence, because if you read this, before I read the purport, it certainly seems to be saying, what? Always silent. Well, if we're supposed to be always silent, then I'm doing something really bad right now because I'm talking. I'm talking with the microphone too, right? So there's something out of whack here. Okay, can anybody guess how to reconcile this problem? Pruning.
I mean, to not complain.
That's certainly part of it, but I'm looking for something a little more substantial. I'm talking right now. I'm talking about Krishna, and it's saying be silent.
Be silent if you're not going to speak something about Krishna.
There you go, right there.
Something beneficial or something to uplift the consciousness. If the sound vibration is going to bring your consciousness down, then there's no.
Don't talk nonsense.
Right.
Which, by the way, this is one of the things most of us here, you know, this program has kind of matured over the years. I'm going to take a little sidebar here for a minute. We've had all sorts, I've been doing this steadily for about 10 years, and basically since I came to OJAI 25, 30 years ago. And I've had all sorts of people come through here. But there's a couple of things about etiquette that's worth mentioning here. When you come to a Krishna conscious program, for the most part, of course, as soon as I say this, people will point out things that they see at the temple, and stuff goes on at the temple too. But for the most part, you really want to try to take advantage of this opportunity and talk about whatever the topic is, or anything related to Krishna consciousness. You may have some other question, that's perfectly okay. Sometimes people get distracted, and the next thing you know, they're talking about their family, their dog, their house, you know, their job, their car broke down, whatever it is. And it's not that we're not sympathetic to those things, but it's really probably not the best time, unless there's an emergency. It's not really the right place to do that. We really want to take advantage of each other's association and find out, you know, and there's so many books and so many pictures on the wall. Ask about it. And that's what we're trying to do here. So anyhow, so I wanted to point that out. Let me read the purport to this, because there's a lot of stuff here. The purport's not that long, and I think you'll get a real good feeling for where we're going with this. And then we'll have a few minutes to go over my chart, which kind of really cements the whole concept together. So a devotee is always free from all bad association. That's what we're doing when we come here, by the way. We are trying to find the people in Ventura County who are actually wanting to get serious about lifting their consciousness. Not just going to church and having a social event. I mean, we have, obviously, this is a social event too. And there's nothing wrong with going to church and having a social event, but really lifting your consciousness as high as you can. And I think many of the people here, from what I've talked about, from what I tell from talking to people, there's nothing wrong with any other traditions, but it's been my belief, and many other people would agree, that the Krishna conscious process is really a very profound philosophy. You're going to get more substance here than you will probably from most of these other things. These other things are stepping stones. And when you're really ready to go serious, then you finally end up, and we have a whole slide presentation called Wisdom of the Wise. All of the greatest philosophers and Nobel Prize winners and poets and mathematicians and some of the most interesting people who are basically at the top of their field, they all somehow or another found their life moving in the direction of the Vedic literature. Carl Sagan, who was a great astronomer, and he studied his field, and he said, you know, it blew his mind that when he actually started reading what was in the Vedas, he said, I can't believe it. These books that were written thousands of years ago are describing what I'm looking at when I look through the telescope. How did they know that? They didn't have telescopes back then, at least in his opinion. They had other sciences. You know, same thing with the guy who wrote about mathematics. He said, all of our mathematics we were taught in grade school came from the Arabic. No. The Arabs got the zero, the concept of zero, and the 9 number systems from the Indian tradition. There's a whole section of the Vedas that talk about mathematics and different ways of making calculations in your head. I don't know it, but there's devotees who are studying that. And then science of medicine and so forth. There's so many fields of knowledge that are there. If you actually look in the Vedas, it's like, whoa, where'd they get all this stuff from? Some of you have seen the map that I did on the universal concept of time. You spend just a couple minutes looking at that, you go, whoa, how did they know that 10,000 years ago? Okay, so let's move forward. Sometimes one is praised, and sometimes one is defamed. That is the nature of human society. But a devotee is always transcendental to artificial fame and infamy, because ultimately at the end, it all blows away. You can be very famous in this life, and in your next life, whatever. It's going to be what your consciousness is. Okay? Distress or happiness. He is very patient. He does not speak of anything but the topics about Krishna. Therefore, he is called silent. It's kind of a new spin on what silence means. Okay? Silence does not mean that one should not speak. Silence means that one should not speak nonsense. One should speak only of essentials. And the most essential speech for the devotee is to speak for the sake of the Supreme Lord. The devotee is happy in all conditions. Sometimes he may get very palatable foodstuffs, sometimes not. But he is satisfied. Nor does he care for any residential facility. He may sometimes live underneath a tree, and he may sometimes live in a very palatial building. He is attracted to neither. He is called fixed because he is fixed in his determination and knowledge. That's what we're trying to grow here, is our softness of the heart and our maturity of awareness and realization. We may find some repetition in the descriptions of the qualifications of a devotee, but this is just to emphasize the fact that a devotee must acquire all of these qualifications. Without good qualifications, one cannot be a pure devotee. Hara bhaktasya kuto mahaguna. One who is not a devotee has no good qualification. One who wants to be recognized as a devotee should develop the good qualifications. Of course, he does not extraneously endeavor to acquire these qualifications, but engagement in Krishna consciousness and devotional service automatically helps him develop them. So I would that last sentence, I'd like everybody to just stop and think to yourself, since you've been coming in contact with Krishna consciousness, probably you've noticed some things that you were attached to or weren't aware of before you came. You think back on it, you go, wow, yeah, I kind of gave that up. I always use the analogy of, like, when I was a kid, I had all these toys. Maybe the ladies had dolls, right? And somewhere along the line, you didn't need the doll anymore. You know, it was so important. You know, you're 10 years old and you got your little doll. I had my little erector set and all these far out toys that I was working with. And I used to think as little kids, God, how do these adults get along? They don't have their erector set. You know? And I couldn't envision, I couldn't imagine what it was like to be an adult without having an erector set. And then somewhere along the line, I turned around, I was in college, and went, don't need the erector set anymore. But we carry certain things with us, and in this life, we now look back and we go, yeah. I had a friend who used to come here years ago. He was really into semi-professional golf. And I used to think to myself, God, he's spending so much time on the golf course, hitting this ball to a little thing. You know, Prabhupada had all sorts of comments about these sort of sports. He'd say, what an amazing way to waste your life, playing games, you know. I mean, because he's seen it from a transcendental point of view. And, you know, it was such a dear thing to him. I just said, you know, I didn't want to agitate his mind. He was way too attached to playing golf. He might have been making money at it, I don't know. But anyhow, I could see it just wasn't appropriate. But it was interesting, a couple years later, he never really got too seriously involved in the Krishna conscious process, but through his own, he got married and he got tied down with a family and stuff. But that'll also do it to you. It'll knock out some of these extracurricular activities and hobbies. But he mentioned, he said, oh, yeah, I don't play golf so much anymore. And we all know. So think about it for a minute. Think of what things in your life that you were doing maybe 10 or 15 years ago that seemed so important to you. It seemed like it was such an important part of your life. And now it's kind of, yeah, it's not so important anymore. Because that's kind of where we're going with this whole program. And that's what I wanted to mention about tonight's topic, which is silent meditation, because there's people that I know right now who are still doing silent meditation for 20 minutes a day in the morning, maybe in the evening, the TM formula, I think it is. And I don't necessarily say that's bad, because it's not bad. But where it becomes a hindrance, and again, without mentioning names, I've met lots of people, maybe a lot of you know people too, who are really into not just transcendental, but just silent meditation. Every now and then there's an advertisement in the OJAI Valley newspaper about silent walking meditations, and I kind of poked a little fun at it in my newsletter, saying, you know, oh my God, they can't even sit still for be quiet, so now they got to walk around and be quiet. You know, it's like, the thing is, and Prabhupada said, if you read the newsletter, Prabhupada made several seething comments about people who practice silent meditation. He says, you know, at one point he said, simply sleeping. They're just simply sleeping. So I don't want to be too negative about it, because there is a place for stopping and just shutting, you know, like Gary was saying, stopping the train, you know, stop the runaway mind. And that's an important thing to do. But don't fall into the hole of thinking that that is the culmination of all spiritual life. It's not. It's simply another stepping stone to what we're trying to get people to move into. Okay? And it was interesting. I think most people realize that Muhammad Ali just passed away this week, who I think many people know. He was a professional boxer, and whether you like him or you don't like him. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I think it was 1964 or something like that. All I remember was he struck me as the biggest braggart I've ever met. Okay, and that's what I remember of him. But I've heard a lot about him since then. And he did have a certain presence about him. Now keep in mind, this has got nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, but comparing professional people and people in the world today that have made it big, so to speak. Keep in mind also that the Bhagavatam specifically states that in Kali Yuga, people who are pretty, people who are basically Sudras, and boxing is about as Sudra as you can get, okay? People who are musicians or athletes doing really kind of like, from the Vedic point of view, really stupid stuff, will be glorified and honored as great personalities. So with all respect to Muhammad Ali, he kind of fits into that category. But what's interesting was that whether it was due to getting punched in the head for however many times he got punched in the head, he got Parkinson's disease later on in his life, and he couldn't talk, or he had a very difficult time speaking and expressing himself. And I just heard somebody mentioning this week about how that really helped him go deeper and deeper and deeper into who he actually was and what he was trying to do. And he gave up his radical Islam. He became part of the radical Islam, not radical like we know it today, but the Louis Farrakhan mentality. He backed away from that, and he started going deeper and deeper. And I think it's partially because Krishna took the ability for him to speak away, and he went quiet. Okay, so having said that, let's look now at, if I can find it. I'm going to have a hard time finding it. Okay, let's do it like this. This was the chart that I put out. We're going to start at the bottom of this, and we're going to walk through it real quick, and then we'll take some questions. So
I'll just make a comment about like meditation and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's just kind of interesting how like when you go into silence and then you get away from all your crazy thoughts and stuff, and you experience this incredible oneness or silence, just really deep silence. You start thinking like, wow, this is just absolutely amazing. This is where it's all at. Mm-hmm. And then you might have all kinds of mystical experiences. Mm-hmm. You might see things. You might see other etheric levels and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting to see like how people can get so caught up in that, all these mystical experiences, and they think that's it. That's right. This is the ultimate. Right.
And one of the other things Prabhupada actually said, because I did a little research on this before we had the class, in several places in the folio, I mean, I could bump through on silent meditation and show it to you. Prabhupada said silent meditation, the yogi position, the yogi concept of silent meditation leads without any further instruction like what we're giving tonight or any further awareness or opening to Krishna consciousness, is really kind of almost subliminally designed to bring you to the concept where you feel like you're God, which is kind of what you were just saying. So it's not coincidental that people that get really heavily entrenched in silent meditation have this attitude, and some of them actually come out and say you are God. Some of them don't necessarily come out and say it, but they behave in that way and they have an attitude about it. So yeah, because there is some power there. Whenever you do any kind of an austerity, certainly shutting down. I think in the newsletter I wrote, there's a place way up on the hill on the way to Santa Paula. Mayor Bubba had a Bajang Kutir up there. I don't know how many people know who Mayor Bubba is, but he was back in the 40s and 50s, and his name to fame was he didn't speak for the last 28 years of his life. So you kind of go, huh? What do you mean he didn't speak? He walked around with a chalkboard or an alphabet board where he'd spell things. Now, I don't know how the heck that's supposed to be spiritual. He's still communicating. He's just doing it in a very inefficient way. You know, if you want to really not speak, go to a cave and not speak, you know. And yet somehow or another, you know, of course he called himself the Yuga Avatar, which is, you know, we would be very, you know, we would really take issue with that. But I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I do want to step through this because most of us are familiar with these three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So this chart was designed to deal with specifically the concept of speaking, or how we manifest ourselves when we open our mouth. So in the lower levels of ignorance and tamagun, people who are caught up in that mode, you can identify people by how they behave. People can say all sorts of things, but ultimately, really, it's down to what they do. So what kind of language are they known for? Very disruptive, aggressive, threatening, vengeful. Their words are contaminated by ignorance, aggression, destruction, violence, which leads to degradation, illusion, and madness, and usually a lot of four-letter words and foul language and that kind of stuff is down there. Okay, and people that are in that kind of a mode, you know, if they just stay down there, they'll go into this loop, and some people will just go nuts. I mean, they'll really go nuts. Nothing makes any sense, and they're just stuck in that loop. If they get an opening, if they have good fortune, and they maybe meet a devotee or just anybody who's in a higher mode, or something in life happens, they may have an opportunity to maybe rise up a little bit and move up to the mode of passion. So that's what it says here. They may hit bottom. They may seek help. This is real popular with people in the AA organization. What do they say? You got to hit bottom, and then maybe they go to a meeting or something and they start to pull themselves back together again. They regain some control over their senses. I said earlier about how sense control is kind of what separates the mice from the men, or the men from the boys, and then they have led to their bad habits. Okay, so then they move up to the mode of passion. Now keep in mind, you can leap over some of these things, both going up and down. You can be up here and you can crash down. But for the sake of discussion, we'll step through it like a ladder. So what happens? Then they move to the mode of passion. Those people tend to be loud and bombastic. They can be annoying, you know, and boisterous. They're just kind of in your face. And they talk about things maybe not even interested in. They're not necessarily being grossly offensive or threatening. They're just kind of like, oh, leave me alone. I don't want to hear it. You know, it's just like, or they might try to sell you something, or, you know, it's just that, it's that kind of stuff. One speaks to gratify they're just talking about themselves all the time. Okay. Hankering out of pride, aspiring for honor, economic, material benefits. Like I said, salespeople. Somebody's trying to constantly, I got this car. I got the, you know. It's like, no, I'm not interested. Okay. So in that mode, if they're not careful, they can become overwhelmed by life and losses, and they lose control over their senses and slip into very destructive habits. So they can easily tumble down the ladder. Or if they're fortunate enough through some of their own natural maturing process, or having the opportunity to be exposed to somebody of a higher mature level, they might actually get a chance to mature to the mode of goodness, which is sattva guna. Okay, so in that case, they'd be over here with the yellow words: seeks more than gross sense gratification. They're kind of maybe getting burned out with their senses. They're kind of going, you know, been there, done that. Played golf, just won too many games or something, or watched too many of the same sitcoms or reruns of I Love Lucy or whatever it is. You know, yeah, enough is enough. It's got to be more to it than is that song. Is that all there is? Okay. Peggy Lee, right? Okay. So questions one old purpose for existence. They're kind of like, there's got to be more here. Okay. And in fact, we've had devotees come to our movement. We're very heavily involved with the TM. And they were very determined and sincere, and they were in there, and they eventually worked themselves up to very high positions in the TM, and they eventually got the chance, this is 20, 30 years ago, to actually meet with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and they were saying things like, well, there's got to be more than just levitating and sitting all day. I mean, there's got to be more to it than that. And it's for those few individuals, he said, yeah, you want that? Go to Bhaktivedanta Swami. And it's kind of a hush-hush thing. He only kind of let that out when he needed to, because obviously he was basically sending his advanced students to his competition. But there are devotees who will give that class. So here we go. Seeks more than sense gratification, questions well-known purpose of existence, so he moves up to goodness. And what are people in the mode of goodness? They tend to be humble, right? They tend to be attentive. When you talk, they listen, you know. They're thoughtful and they're empathetic, right? They hear, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, you know. They tend to do more. Down here, people tend to do more talking and no listening. In here, it's kind of equal. In here, they tend to do more listening and less talking. Okay. Speaks only when necessary, and I'm kind of paraphrasing what we just read in the verses, truthfully, and avoids offensive speech. Is patient, self-satisfied, pensive, and introspective. You notice here, I've got all the Bhagavad Gita verses that are kind of used to build this with, right there, if you want to go back and study it. Okay, but again, if they can get overwhelmed. One time, some devotee made a comment to Srila Prabhupada. He said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, your divine grace, you'll never fall down. You're a pure devotee of Krishna. And Prabhupada got very stern with him and said, don't ever think like that. Don't ever think. He said, even I could fall down. Of course, Prabhupada was being extremely humble. But he was also teaching us, don't ever think that you got Maya under control. And she'll come back and fight you as soon as you turn the other way. So there is that possibility that you can become bitter, revengeful, grossly selfish, apathetic, etc. Now that happens, we're going to go up on the chart here a little bit. Notice now what happens. If they're really fortunate, they can move right into pure goodness, sattva gun, Suddha-sattva. But before we go there, this is where silent meditation can actually play an important role. Because if they're doing this, they're doing all this other stuff, they're kind of going, well, maybe there's more to it than just being a good guy, good college, collegiate young man or young lady, being, nice guy. Maybe there's more to it than that. So what happens is, and that might be triggered, and that is often triggered by what? A personal tragedy, or they get cheated by charlatans. Some people come to Krishna consciousness, they got cheated by charlatans. Of course, that can also work the other way. They can be cheated, and then they say, oh, this spiritual life is a bunch of garbage. And they just don't, and then they become atheistic, or they become apathetic. So that can work, this box over here can work either way. It can push you to go for something more substantial, but it can also push you back down into cynicism, apathy. Spiritual life is a bunch of nonsense. Okay, and then if that happens, they can bump down real fast and go right down to the bottom, or they could just go into atheism and try to lead a somewhat clean life. If they just I don't want to hear about God. Okay, but they could also go up and they seek transcendence, find solace from pain, and this is where a lot of this silent meditation comes in. They can go into their silent meditation and sort of block the world out. Whenever you hear people say things like, oh, I don't want to hear that, it's bad news, I only want to have good things in my consciousness, that's kind of an informal form of silent meditation. They're blocking out stuff. And that's not necessarily bad, but if it becomes a way of life, then you're kind of living in ignorance. I don't personally advocate that. I don't think that's really the role of a devotee. The devotee's not afraid of it. He's not afraid of anything, whatever it is. I give the example many times. Prabhupada said if devotees were asking, what if an atomic bomb is in the sky coming down? Prabhupada says, Hare Krishna, that's also Krishna. That's bad news, but it's not like we're afraid of it. And it's like, devotees aren't afraid of anything. Okay, so what happens is they could actually go into this thing called silent meditation, okay? And they could really start getting deeply interested in developing their consciousness on a subtle plane, which is a good thing. And I had my 6 months of silent meditation before I came to Krishna consciousness. And I'd go out. Actually, it's funny because I got into it, and before I found Krishna, I was chanting other mantras. I'm not going to mention them, but I was just chanting other mantras. And then as I started reading about Krishna consciousness, I said, well, wait a minute. I should chant the Maha Mantra. And so I'd go out on my porch at the University of Kansas as the sun was going down on the horizon. I'd sit there and I'd chant 4 rounds, silently, and sit in my little half lotus position. And it was in the Nectar of Devotion is referred to as a clearing stage. You're kind of clearing all the garbage you've accumulated, all that stuff you've been chasing forever, many years you've been around, all that stuff that's cluttered your head up thinking it's so important when it's not important. So that's the clearing stage. So there's a place for it. But it's not the final step. And that's what the chart's showing us, is that at some point, now you can also fall out of that, because keep in mind, silent meditation and Om, these are all impersonal features of Krishna, and the impersonal features are generally not real attractive. I mean, they are because they're related to Krishna, but they're not going to have the sticking power of what you'll have when you actually get into the personal aspect of God. So you can fall out of that and bump, whoops.
See?
There you go. All right. Computer is playing its own game.
You're not in
You can black out, you know? Black out of awareness. So, and you could literally go bump diddy bump diddy bump diddy bump and go all the way back down if you're not careful. I'm not sure why that's happening. We're just gonna hope it holds out till we get to the best part. Okay. So anyhow, so you could do that, or you could actually. I feel like I followed this process where I kind of did it for 6 months, and I kind of, Of course, I kept reading Prabhupada's books. I encourage everybody to get our books, to read our books, read the Bhagavad Gita, read whatever's attractive. Some people are attracted to the Krishna book. Anything put out by the BBT. We have a lot of little books. If you're here for the first time, we'll give you a couple little starters if you like. And you realize the limits of self-directed personal meditation. And you graduate to the final stage of transcendence. Okay. Now, I don't have it in here, but if you were to read chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, I could make the argument that I've sort of mapped out chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita here in the sense of, Arjuna is being told by Krishna to do these different meditative processes, and Arjuna is saying, I can't do it. It's just too much trouble. So anyhow, so you come to this point where you realize, wait a minute, there's only so much I'm going to get from this. And then they can move over to here. This is kind of what I'm saying. You acknowledge, and I the more I talk to people about this, the more I am stunned and astonished at how people just can't seem to wrap their brain around this concept of, as human beings, we have these 4 serious flaws. I'm saying it all the time. What are they? The propensity to cheat, the propensity to fall into illusion, the propensity to make mistakes, and imperfect senses. And when you really get that, because that was one of the first things that somebody threw at me when I was coming to Krishna consciousness. And I went home and I wrestled with it for a couple nights, a couple weeks, and I said, no, but I can't do that either. And I can't do that either. And then you finally get it and you realize, wait a minute, I'm kind of helpless. It's completely politically incorrect to say this in the world today, where everybody's running around saying you can figure it out on your own. Be your own person. Don't listen to anybody else. They teach it in schools, right? Think for yourself. And to a certain extent, okay. But on this issue, if you think for yourself, you'll realize, if you're honest, that you're not going to figure it out on your own. You're never going to be able to figure it out on your own. You need some kind of a transcendent teacher, what we refer to as a guru, who actually has been given the knowledge, and then you can actually take that and grow. So that's what this is all about. And when you get to this stage, you can actually move to a 4th level, which isn't on the 3 modes of nature chart, because it's not part of the 3 modes of nature. It transcends the 3 modes of nature, which is referred to as pure goodness, the Suddha-sattva stage. Which that's what that means, pure goodness. It's not just goodness. Goodness is still mecking around down in the material world. When you hit the pure goodness stage, you have now stepped beyond the material world, and you've stepped into the transcendental realm, where you're ecstatic, you're gregarious, you're equanimous, and you're benevolent, joyously absorbed in hearing and chant. Notice it says hearing and chanting, and serving the Supreme Lord all the time. Those are the first 3 stages of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Okay, hearing, chanting, remembering. Those are the first 3 stages. And so to complete the chart, we go up here and we find out that here is the scriptural evidence. Lord Chaitanya said, Trinadapi Sanichanam, Trinorapi Sahitanam, Manina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sada Hari. That if one actually in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw of the street, ready to offer all respects to others, one can then chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Whether you're doing it in your head, whether you're doing it out loud. Many people have been on my property. I've had all sorts of friends here, people chanting Hare Krishna all at different times of the day. Hopefully all day long. Or we're playing, Brajarani is very good about it. She's always playing some Kirtan or some, lecture or something like that. And here it is in the Bhagavad Gita. Always chanting my glories, 9:14. Okay? Right there. Satadam Kirtanam in Bhagavad Gita. So these aren't my opinions. Krishna's saying this is when you really get it, this is what you're doing. And then here, this is one of the, I just realized this looks like there's a typo here. That's not Bhagavad Gita 10:4. This is one of the seed verses of the Bhagavad Gita. The thoughts of my devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to me, to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from what? Always enlightening one another and conversing about me. That's what we're doing tonight. And we could do a program here where everybody comes and we just sit for an hour. And I know it sounds a little strange, but there's people that do that. And in fact, I had that experience in college once. When I was first finding out about Krishna consciousness, I was like, my whole world was like exploding with like, whoa, this is Krishna consciousness. I wonder what all the other traditions are doing. And so there was an ad in the newspaper that said, come to a Buddhist, gathering. I said, oh, wow, I'm going to go hear what they got to say, And I was all excited, and I went there. And I swear to God, it was only about 3 or 4 people showed up, and I couldn't understand why until it was over. And literally, the guy said, okay, thank you all for coming, 3 people. And he said, okay, we're going to start now. And he kind of went, and I'll ring the gong when we're done. And he went, and I sat there for about 45 minutes or an hour. Nobody said anything. And of course I just said, well, time to do Hare Krishna in my mind. And we sat there for about 45 minutes or an hour. And then eventually he rang the gong and he said, thank you all for coming. And that was it. And it very effectively told me, I am not into Buddhism. I'm not into this stuff. There's got to be, so I jumped through this pretty quickly. I'm not good. I appreciated it on one level, the way I'm explaining it here. But somehow or another, I knew there's got to be more to it than this. So, and then of course, I just to show some interfaith dialogue, it's also really interesting how this concept of make a joyful noise unto the Lord, it's in the Bible like about 5 or 6 places, all through Psalms. There's all the references. So, with that, I want to invite, if anybody would like to make some comments, or if you have any questions, or if I said something too fast, or it's not clear, we have a few minutes, and then we can eat.
I have a question.
Okay.
What's the pink and red imagery in the background? I can't.
Oh, good question.
Yeah, I just.
This is actually a
These
very
people
famous.
chant.
Okay, these
Oh,
are.
yeah, they're devotees.
There's the devotees. This is called the autonomy of silent meditation, and this is a very famous photograph. I believe it was taken in San Francisco, 1973 or 4. I might be wrong on the year. I know a lot of these people. This gentleman here has passed away, but a lot of some of the people were blocked out for because the way I had to put it together. But these are these are all Prabhupada's disciples, and they were having a robust kirtan, kind of like what we do when we start the program here. And it was at Rath Yatra, and Prabhupada was so, involved and so appreciating devotees. He got off of Vyasasan. Vyasasan is the thing right there on the background where he sits, the red cushion. And he got up and he started going like this. This is what spiritual life is all about. Not sitting. That's not spirit. I don't want to say it's not spiritual life, but this is what spiritual life's about. And if you've ever been to our temple, you come to the 4th of July, devotees chanting and singing. It actually is, and Brajarani tells the story about how her relatives, you probably heard it before, went to a couple different temples, and everybody's sitting there and quietly, being respectful, and ministers giving the sermon. Oh, okay, thank you very much. And then they came to our Hare Krishna. Devotees are banging on the drums and hitting the tambourines and jumping up and down and going wild all over the place. Whoa. And she was explaining, she said, yeah, when you get spiritual life, you can't sit still. You get like an electric volt of energy where you're just overwhelming with you just want to let it out. So in Prabhupada's own way, that's what happened with him. All of his disciples are having this huge kirtan. There's probably several thousand people, where the photograph was taken from. Because if you look at the photographs from this parade in San Francisco, in fact, it might have been this year where the what do you call it? The mayor of San Francisco declared July 14th or something like that as the annual Rath Yatra day for the city of San Francisco. We basically took over Golden Gate Park. I mean, there was 10,000, 15,000 people showed up for this. So that I'm trying to show that's where we're really going. And if people get, and it's just sad, a lot of people get stuck. And I'm not trying to say don't do silent meditation. There's a place for it. I want to make that clear. There is a place for it. Sometimes we need to pull back. That's what I'm saying. Rupa Goswami says it's a clearing stage. But actually, to be honest with you, Prabhupada didn't really talk about it so much in his books. And when you get to a point where you realize whatever you're accomplishing the silent meditation, devotees usually do what? They pick up their bead bag and they chant Hare Krishna mantra. They chant their japa. They might go on a japa walk. They're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. And they're actually trying to absorb Krishna's name because we understand that Krishna's name is non-different than himself. It's kind of a hard thing to grasp right at first, but Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can actually, the Prophet said, he's dancing on your tongue. You're actually having his direct immediate association, and it will lift your consciousness regardless of what the problem is. So, Mark, did you want to add something?
Yeah. So you had mentioned that you guys play music during the day, some kirtan in the background, and you're always trying to stay in a state of bhakti, devotion, right? How do you do it at night? What would you do at night? Light a candle or?
Well, actually, to be honest with you, obviously, when there's 3 stages of consciousness, and when you're in deep sleep, you're gone. Okay, you basically, you're not really conscious of anything. But both in Radharani's room, in my room, and in the kitchen, I invested on these little scan disc. What do you call it? iPod? Not an iPod.
Flash drive or
No, the little
MP3.
MP3 players.
MP3?
I mean, like $25-$30 you can get these little things. And people put all sorts of stuff on there. And I took them off my hard disk and I backed off all of these. We have kirtans, we have lectures. It's amazing what these little things. I mean, they're just. I don't have one, but it's about the size of this box. Okay, and it has a couple little buttons on it. You go in the kitchen, you'll see it. It's hooked up to the little thing under the counter. And by pushing a few buttons, boom, you can get hundreds of lectures, hundreds of kirtans. And frequently, and actually I would recommend you try this. If you're reluctant or can't find the time to read our Bhagavad Gita, I would advise you to get it, or if you can't, I can give you a copy of it, a digital copy, there's different devotees narrating. And there's some devotees narrate the Sanskrit and everything. But the one that I particularly like is where it just narrates the verses. Try this sometime. Because the way you sleep is, lots of times, at least for myself, and from what I hear from other people, what do? We lay around for a couple minutes, unless you're really tired. But most people lay for a couple minutes before their body actually goes to sleep. And from what I recall from my Psychology 101, where you have dreams, right, is when you're coming usually out of sleep, although I guess it happens also going in, but I believe it mostly happens when you're coming out of sleep, whether that's in the middle of the night or in the morning when you're waking up, you're coming out of sleep, and you have what's the rapid eye movement and stuff like this. But if you've got a transcendental tape on, like the Bhagavad Gita, while you're coming out of sleep and you're not fully conscious yet, but you're hearing. Remember, hearing is a powerful thing. That's what we teach. Hearing is the most powerful of the senses. And your consciousness starts hearing some transcendental message, you'll be astonished at what your brain will put together for a dream.
You yourself, always tells me, when he hears that, he always has a nice spiritual dream when he wakes up.
I mean, it's just amazing how your mind will put something together. I
You
don't.
leave it running all night?
You can do that.
I used to do
Or
that
lots of
once
times-
upon a time.
Well, lots of times what I'll do is I sleep very lightly. So if I see the clock is moving on towards 5:30, I go, oh, I'll get up a little bit, or whatever time you're going to get up. I'll roll over and it's a good question. Don't waste a moment. And I'm always trying to learn more Bhagavad Gita verses and be comfortable. So when people ask me, oh, that's over here, that's over here, that's over here. So that's one of the ways I'm training my brain. Okay, so I might turn it on in the morning, knowing that I'll fall asleep again, maybe for another hour, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, depending on what time it is in the morning. It's really early or really late. And that's when the magic happens. I don't want to go into it, but see, personally, people go on and on and on about their dreams and what did the dreams mean. And I had, this, an analogy. And there's, Carl Jung, I think, had all this stuff about dream analysis, and I don't take any of that really that seriously. But this is where it really becomes fun. Just for example, this is one example I remember once dreaming. And it was like I was in a cafeteria or something. And I went in to get my plate of food, and the people behind the counter were chanting Bhagavad Gita verses. I'm going like, whoa, this is an unusual cafeteria. And I went down to the cash register, and the lady was chanting Bhagavad Gita verses. And I'm like, wow, where am I? And then I sat down at the table, and all the people at the table were chanting Bhagavad Gita verses. I'm going like, this is a really far out place. I've never been to this place before. I walk out, and the guards are saying, hey, they're chanting Bhagavad Gita verses. And I go, oh man, and then I started waking up, and I go, wow, and that's just one that I have to remember. So I would encourage you to do it, because that message, that subliminal message goes in, and then later in the day you go like, oh. So, good question. Really good question. We can take advantage of every moment.
Something in the background.
Yeah.
But also, if you spend your whole day hearing about Krishna and talking about Krishna, naturally at night also your consciousness will be thinking about Krishna.
Yeah.
That's actually another very excellent point. Some of these other groups that I go to, and I talk to people with other disciplines, some of these, I'll hold my words here, but they'll say these things which sound reasonable. They'll say things, you have no control over your thoughts. And yeah, there's a little bit of truth in there, but what Radharani just said is actually really true. If you spend most of your day, your thoughts, your subliminal thoughts will be bouncing back all the junk you pumped in during the day. Or if it's good stuff, all the good stuff you pumped in. So if you are one of these so-called spiritual yogi people where you do your 20 minutes a day and then you go right back into the TV world, the radio world, the mundane world of talking sports and rock and roll or whatever it is, golf or whatever your thing is, well, yeah, your consciousness is going to be bouncing all over the place. But if you really try to start restricting what you're putting in to just transcendental matters, then your subconsciousness is going to be bouncing around in the world of transcendental matters. So we really do have a lot more control over things than we sometimes like to cop out on.
Another thing Prabhupada said is, he also said at night before you go to sleep, read like a bit of Krishna book or transcendental literature before you go to bed, so that also prepares.
Yeah, we used to do that.
We wake up
all
in
the
the
time.
morning, first thing we do a spiritual program, and then at night again. It's almost like, and then within the day we do our services. It's almost like a sandwich. Wake up, you engage, and then at night you again, read something about Krishna before you go to bed. Even if it's just one paragraph, one page.
Right.
Yeah, that's a real good habit. Roger and I have been doing it more and more now. In the morning, we do our little 10 or 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes we talk about things longer than that. And it really sort of sets the mood, It sets your mood, and it reminds you, we got serious stuff to do today. We got serious things to do to try to teach Krishna consciousness, invite people, and so forth. So anybody else? Any comments?
Kind of like RAM memory, right? You get it up into the RAM area instead
Yeah,
of the hard,
exactly.
get it off the hard drive up into the
And the thing is, the mind has a tendency to resist it. I know I resist it. I go, I don't feel like going. I don't know. But, one of the things that I learned living in the temple for many years is, let's put it this way, you don't live in the temple for many years unless you get your mind under control, because they'll throw a bucket of water on you if you don't get up. you know, and so you learn real quick. I mean, the thing is, you don't go to the temple unless you're serious to begin with. But you really, I have to say this, I probably mentioned it before, one of the best things that happened to me when I was in high school, which I didn't realize at the time at all, was when I joined the track team. My track coach used to always say to us, the mind will cave in a lot faster than the body. In other words, the mind will tell you to stop a lot sooner than the body. The body can do a lot more than the mind will let you do. So when you see these people doing these Olympic, you know, some of these Olympic, what do they call it, Olympic, these young girls that do the balance beam and all this stuff, and they're like 5, 10 years old, you go like, holy smokes, and you're spinning and twirling and catching and doing all this stuff. You're like, how do they do that? You know, how do some of these athletes do these extraordinary things? Because they got a coach telling them, stop saying you can't do it. You can do it. Your mind is telling you can't do it, but you can do it. And actually, that's what the guru is. The guru means heavy. Nowadays, people make fun of gurus. People don't want gurus. Why? Because they're telling them what to do. But actually, if you want to go do your own thing, you know, this whole thing we were saying before, if you think you can figure it out on your own, okay, fine, good luck with that. But when you actually get serious about your spiritual life, or anything, you want to get serious about sports, right? You get a coach. I mean, anybody who's real serious about competing in the Olympics, they get a coach, because the coach is going to kick their butt and tell them to get serious and stop making excuses. Okay? So that's what the guru is. Guru means, in Sanskrit, heavy. He's not somebody you pal around with. In fact, you approach the guru in a very respectable way, not like, hey, what's happening, Guru Bob? Casey, do you want to say
Let's
something?
say if you think you can figure things out yourself, try figuring out quantum mechanics, or let's say,
Yeah.
relativity. You might want to read a book by a guy named Einstein instead of trying to figure it out yourself.
Right, exactly.
That's the guru.
And that's exactly right. So the thing is, why try to figure out spiritual life? We've already got a whole history of great acharyas, and they've written so many wonderful books. So anyhow, we're running a little late. So let's do the prasadam prayer, and we'll have a wonderful dinner. And I don't have any particular videos to play tonight, so we'll just kind of leave it open. Okay, let's see if we can make this a little bigger for you.
Did you want to make some announcements of prasadams after?
Oh yeah, you know, I don't want to belabor the point. You know, whenever you get a chance, people that want to help out in the kitchen, we have a Krishna etiquette, kitchen etiquette. There's a little sign in the kitchen. Of course, if you're just visiting, it's not a big deal. But if you help out in the kitchen, we always ask people to read that first. But also as guests, basically there's a what do you call it? The etiquette or the I'm looking for the right word. Protocol about taking prasadam is when you take prasadam. We haven't stressed this here. That's why I'm bringing it up now, because if you go to the temple and do this kind of stuff, you're going to get your hand slapped. Usually there's a person serving, and that person serving serves you, and then you can have as much as you want. But if you want to go back for seconds, it's not proper to go right to the bucket and start serving yourself. If you want to do that, you're supposed to wash your mouth and hands in the sink, and then you can do that. We try to, I think most of you have been here before, notice that usually Brajarati or myself, while you're eating, we'll try to go around with the bucket, and we'll try to offer it to you. Want everybody to be satisfied. But just keep in mind, it's really not appropriate. That's sort of like what comes to my mind is if you've seen some of these old Viking movies or somebody when they got the table on there, you know, they get the turkey and the grog, and they're drinking, give me a bone, and they're ripping it out of you, guys, and they're chewing on it, you know, it's like, it's just not, it's not the Vedic way.
I think it's just a health and
Grab me, I'll take some of that.
It's a way of health and safety rules. as
And it's
well,
actually,
because,
yeah, it's health and
Some
safety.
people I notice when you're coming, after you're eating with the hands that you're eating, the spoon is dipped in and then you touch it on the plate where you're eating. So if someone's got a cold or a flu or something like that, and then you put the same ladle back into the whole pot, so everyone else might get the infection
Similar
and things
double
like
dipping,
that. So it's kind of cleanliness and.
Yeah, I mean, when you really think, most people are just unaware of it. I know when I was in college, you know, it's like, hey, pass the popcorn now. You just kind of chow down on everything, you know. And I know in college, at least when I was there, it was kind of like, yeah, we're brothers. Okay, yeah, here, I'll eat off the other guy's plate and stuff like that. You know, it's like, it's sort of like a bond. It's like blood brothers, like they cut their hands, like bond together like that. You know, nowadays you do that, you probably get AIDS or something. You know? So the thing is, but there is actually a higher etiquette. So we'll talk about more of these things as we go along. But keep that in mind. The same thing with the talking, you know, it's like try to keep the conversation more related to what's going on. I don't want to be too regulated because I want people to feel comfortable. But at the same time, I want people to understand what the higher understanding is when you do come here. Okay, so let's read this together, and then we will. And again, don't forget, Rath Yatra will have one more meeting towards the end of this month before Rath Yatra. And also, I will try to find. I don't know where they are right now. All those little flyers that we made up. I don't know if you can find them,
Just
but
at the end of
yeah. If you first of all take one for yourself, but if you have friends that you think might be interested, take a few for them, and pass them out. And try to. If everybody here could just bring, if everybody here could come, and then if you can bring another person with you, that'd be great. We'll have a really nice turn.
It's the Santa Monica Rath Yatra?
No, it's the Ojai one. You've been to it.
July 4th.
4th of July.
Oh.
Okay.
When
Okay.
is the Santa Monica one?
That's in August.
August.
It's a couple more weeks down the road. Okay, so follow along. If you know the prayer, say it with me, and then we'll read the English at the end. Saridara Vidyajal Jitendriya Teka Jive Fale Visaya Sagare Dharma Jay Jivayati Logamoya Sidurmati Take Jeta Katina Samsare Krishna Badadaya Moy Karibara Jivajai Swapashadana Dilabai Sanamrita Pal Radha Krishna Gunagal Premidako Chaitanya Nitai Jai Nimai Nitai. Okay, who would like to have the honors to read the English tonight?
Since I didn't do the Sanskrit, I'll do it.
Okay.
O Lord, this material body is a lump of ignorance, and the senses are a network of paths to death. Somehow we have fallen into this ocean of material sense enjoyment, and of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and uncontrollable. It is very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world. But you, dear Krishna, are very kind to us and have given us such nice prasadam just to control the tongue. Now we take this prasadam to our full satisfaction and glorify their Lordship Sri Sri Radha Krishna in the love call for the help of Lord Chaitanya. Chaitanya. Say?
Chaitanya.
Like chai.
Chai.
Chaitanya.
Yeah.
Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda.
Nityananda. Very good. Very good.
Bhakti.
Vinod Thakur.
Yeah, what he said.
Good. Thank you. All right, so let's all have some nice dinner together here.
Thank you.
And thank you all for coming. And if you've got questions or comments or anything, we're happy to deal with it. I'll find something to put up on the screen here. And, oh, you're going to mark. Oh, I could turn my thing off too. And put some music on. And there's our 4th of July parade.
Let's do this here.
Stop this.